An HSC Podcast top 5 backcourts, NBA, and we're going all time. So we'll pull this up. This was tough. There was some, there's some ones that I left out, and that it's hard to leave those out. And so let's go with number 5. Why don't you go ahead and lead off?
Okay, so my number 5, and I'm just going off of, I'm not like, because people are talking like accolades and everything. And I'm just like, if I was starting a starting 5, if I could have these two as part of my team, that's who I'd take. Okay. So there's some I left off my list that had great accolades, won multiple championships, but I'd like, if like in like the eye test for me.
Right. And at their given time, too, right?
Right. So my number 5, and this one's people are gonna be like, really, is Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway.
Wow. You know what? Jeez. I didn't even have that on my list, and now I'm really disappointed I didn't. That's good. That's really good. People don't realize how good Mitch Richmond was.
No, because he was in Sacramento and Golden
Right.
State. Basically, back then, no one in the East Coast ever watched anything on the West Coast. So,
Did anybody have a better pull-up jumper in transition in fast break than Mitch Richmond?
and that's the thing is like also these Gen Zers and everything that talk trash about Jordan, and they're like, "Oh, well, Jordan's the best shooting guard, and Jordan's was Clyde Drexler, and he sucked." I'm like, first off, Clyde Drexler was awesome. But then the second guy is Mitch Richmond, who was amazing also.
Coming down on the fast break, though, when you hit him on the wing, he could stop on a dime and he would just drain it every time. That's a good one. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't have him on my list.
Yeah, because he
That's
averaged, I mean, he really, because he became the focal point when he went to the Kings, because he was only with the Warriors for 3 years.
right.
But he still put up,
He's 20, 20, 23, 22, 23, I guess.
yeah, all 3 years with Golden State, he had 22, 22, 24.
Right. So right there, right?
Yeah, and then he went to the Kings, and I know that's without Hardaway, but it was like 22, 22, 23, 23, 23, 26, 23.
Right.
And then he went 19, 17, 16 because his career was getting towards the end, but still.
Well, and then you look at Tim Hardaway. You got the U tattoo staff.
The best killer crossover in the game.
Right. That's a good one, man. My 5, it's carried by Jordan, but I gotta put you because I can't not put Jordan in there. I don't care who he's with.
Right.
And so I got him and Harper at 5.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got 3 championships out of it. And then you got Jordan, and Harper was a good defensive player. He could hit open shots, and he was a good complement to Jordan. Like that's the kind of guy you want when you have a guy like Jordan, you right? You want a guy who can protect the ball, play defense, and hit an open shot.
Right. Well, and before he went to the Bulls, I mean, he was like the
Yeah,
number
he
one
played for
option.
what, the Cavs?
The Cavs and then the Clippers.
Right,
Because he averaged 22, 15, 18, 22, 23, 19, 18, 18, 20 before he got to the Bulls.
right. So he was a great player.
Right.
But
And then he
when you
went
go
to
to
the
play Jordan,
Bulls.
you're not get the shots anymore.
Yeah, and then he went to the Bulls and he only got over 11 points one time.
Right.
And that could have been after Jordan retired.
But that's for me, I mean, again, Harper didn't put up the best numbers with him, but that's a great tandem. You won a lot of games, you won championships, and you were a good compliment to Jordan. And it's hard not to put Jordan on the list. So I got Jordan and Harper at 5.
One thing also about Harper, he won 5 NBA championships because then he went to the Lakers and won
Right.
two.
And he won. Yeah, won 2 more. I saw that. I was looking at that. I was like, wow, that's a pretty good finish to your career.
Yeah.
So my 4, I mean, this is right up your alley. I mean, I got Frazier and Monroe. And this, they may have not have won all the accolades and the championships, that some of the other guys won. But when you talk about straight skill, they could be number one.
Right.
This is a pair that you could look back in NBA history and you could say Frazier and Monroe could be the best backcourt ever. But I'm there's a couple other factors that I put into it when I was looking at this. But skill wise, I don't think it gets better than Frazier and Monroe.
I won't disagree with you there.
So that's my number 4, and this is 100% skill based pick.
Yeah, well, and then the thing that hurts them is the team they were on was so stacked. You had what, 7 Hall of Famers on that roster?
Yeah,
I mean, Walt Frazier, Earl of Pearl, Bill Bradley, DeBusschere, Willis Reed, Jerry Lucas, Dick Barnett. And then you had the greatest coach, arguably the greatest coach ever on your bench too, and Phil Jackson.
right. Yeah, it's tough.
But yeah, well, that's funny because I got them as my number 4 also.
Oh, wow.
Because I mean, it's true. Like Clyde Frazier is the prototypical point guard.
Yeah,
And he could score too. He averaged the 73 season when they won the championship, he averaged 21 points a game. And then Earl the Pearl had 15. So I mean, yeah, Earl the Pearl when he was with Baltimore before he came to the Knicks, he was and then that's just another one. He had to take a back seat because that team was so good.
right. Well, and you all like for me, when you look at Pearl Monroe, dude, there's other things outside of the NBA that made him the GOAT, right? Like one of the best players to ever play basketball. Because he's just a basketball player. Like he could do things that people weren't doing back then.
Right.
And so if I'm gonna put together a backcourt, I'm taking that. Like if you put it like on a video game and you're like you rated them all based on their primes and their skills, that's a tough one to beat.
Right.
All right, well, you got at 3.
My number 3 is they're winners. They played well together. They played defense and they could score also. And that's Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars was the Jordan stopper if you could stop Jordan. And I think everyone forgets how good Isaiah was.
Yeah. Well, when
Because
you look
Jordan
at
buried.
like who would you put at your point guard? And it's tough because Magic has the height, right? But if you're looking at like a traditional point guard to run your offense, to play defense, who's going to score but is also going to assist. I mean, that's a guy you want.
Well, and in the game, what was it, game 6 against the Lakers, where he was playing on a severely sprained ankle and put up all those points.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I got Thomas and Dumars at number three also.
This is why we need Wes here, so we could have some.
So we can get some different picks. But the thing about Thomas and Dumars is, they put together a team, and they were really the anchors of the team, right? But it's about winning. It's about competitiveness. It's about playing against one of the best players to ever play the game and still winning. You know, that's when you look at them and you're like, well, you beat the best player to ever play.
Well, they beat multiple. They beat the Magic Johnson Lakers. They beat the Larry Bird
Right.
Celtics. They beat Jordan's Bulls to win championships. I mean,
So yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have them in there. And Dumars for me, super underrated.
yeah.
He did a lot of things, off the ball, and he still could shoot the ball really well. You don't want to leave him open. He's the last guy you want to leave open, right? So I definitely I'm agreement there. I got them at three.
And if you would have said backcourt, they might be number one because then you put Vinnie Johnson in there.
Oh my gosh, dude!
Cool.
When you put the microwave in, it's unstoppable. You know, here's the thing, dude. Number two was tough. So I got Steph and Clay here. I mean, when you talk about the Splash Brothers and the ability to score and change the game in a fast pace, like what do you do? Like, God forbid both of them are hitting. Because if one of them's hitting, it's tough enough. But they both have the ability to hit eight, nine threes in a game. So it's hard for me to, put them up this high, but statistically and the eye test and the championships and everything, like you got to put them in there. So I got Clay and Curry here. Not the best, and Clay plays great defense. I will give him that. I do like Clay's defense. But Curry, obviously, he's not a world beater when it comes to defense. But he's gonna tire you out. So, maybe you can't score if you're tired. So I got the Splash Brothers at two.
I think we're kind of in the same, but not the same because my number two is Byron Scott and Magic Johnson. Um, that's another one where like Byron Scott came over from the Clippers and he was really good. And he kind of, because they had Worthy and stuff too. So he's kind of the third wheel. And it was more like Magic had already won a bunch of championships with Kareem and Worthy and Jamal Wilkes and stuff like that before Scott got there, Norm Nixon. Um, but man, when those two in their prime, they were unstoppable.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, this is a better version. I'm not gonna say a totally better version, but this is a similar version to a Jordan Harper.
Right.
And Magic, it's so hard with Magic because he has so much in his game. He's got height, he can shoot, he can pass.
Well, he's selected by the Clippers.
So Magic's tough there.
I guess I was totally off base. He never played for the Clippers. He got traded before playing for the
Right.
Clippers. Byron Scott.
Because they played like what, 11 years together? 12
I
years?
say 83 to, well, Scott left in 93, so yeah. So I was probably wrong there. I was probably they played a lot together, so
All right. Well, what's your number one?
anticlimactic, it's Splash Bros. Just because I mean they changed. the game, probably not for the good, but they did. And when they were both on, it was impossible to beat them.
Right.
And it was more like them. Um, Byron Scott was good, but he was like a third behind Worthy and Magic. Ron Harper was good, but it was Jordan Pippen. Um, with Clay, he was number two, just Steph.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, and so I went back and forth with this, and surprise, surprise, I got Magic and Byron at number one. Um, really, the length of term is very similar, right? Because Clay and Curry are now the longest duo to play. But I guess the one thing about Byron and Magic, and you're right, they had Worthy and they had other players and AC Green and all these other players that were good, but it was the Showtime Lakers. And I like watching Curry and Clay hit threes, but there is nothing like watching the old school Showtime Lakers. And so I'm probably on the same wavelength as you, as where I wanted to put Curry and Clay at number one, but my Gen X in me said, you know what? Let's go Magic and Byron. Just because I'm such a Magic fan. I mean, I hate, being a Blazer fan and really liking Magic that much. So I got Magic and Byron at number one. So that's our. So let's just run down our top five. So these are our top five uh, guard backcourt tandems NBA history. So at number five, I got Jordan Harper. Number four, I got Frazier and Monroe. Three, uh, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars. Two, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. And number one, Magic Johnson, Byron Scott.
I got five, Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway. Four, Frazier Monroe. Three, Thomas Dumars. Two, Magic and Byron Scott. And one, Splash Brothers.
Um,